Father Francis. So, first of all, I just want to say it's so good to see all you people, to see everybody come out today, and I hope everybody's enjoying themselves, enjoying the day, and getting into the spirit. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about the history of St. Norbert, who he was. Does anybody know, or even heard of Norbert before coming here today? A couple of you guys from St. Norbert's Parish back there, you did? St. Norbert and the Norbertines are an ancient order in the Catholic Church. We're nearly 900 years old. We are one of the oldest orders in the Church. We predate both St. Francis and St. Dominic, as a matter of fact. Norbert was born in 1080 in a town called Xanten in Germany. Norbert was a nobleman. His father owned a castle. He was a true nobleman. He was of royal blood. His biography picks up his story in 1115, when Norbert is about 35 years old. Norbert was dedicated to the church as a child, and in the town of Xanten, he was very, very well liked. He was intelligent, he was well educated, he was funny, he was in the court of the emperor, and people liked him a lot. One day, when he was traveling on his horse, he had a conversion experience, much like St. Paul's conversion experience. A dark cloud formed overhead, and a lightning bolt struck in front of his horse. Horse reared up, threw St. Norbert from the horse, and he heard the words, "Turn from evil and do good," from Psalm 33. At that point in time, Norbert he meditated on these words, and he had a very, very serious conversion. He went back to the Abbey of Sieper, and he wanted to be ordained a priest and a deacon on the same day, which is relatively unheard of in the Catholic Church, and it is not in canon law. When the archbishop who he was asking asked him why he wanted to do this, he fell on his knees weeping and expressed sorrow for his sins, and moved the bishop so much that the bishop allowed him to be ordained both a deacon and a priest on the same day. After that, he was saying Mass, a private Mass, as Father Francis had said, by himself down in one of the crypts in the monastery that he was living in, when a huge poisonous spider came down from the ceiling and fell into the chalice where the precious blood had already been consecrated. Instead of wasting any of the precious blood, he decided to drink it down. So he drank it down, spider and all, and then sat down and prepared himself to die, because he thought, at that point in time, that was the end of his life. When he got a sudden itch in the back of his nose and sneezed out the spider hole, he felt that this was a call from God, that he had other things that he had to go ahead and do. He went and sold all that he had. He went and sold all of his houses, yes, plural houses. He was a nobleman. And he sold all the furnishings in the houses, and he gave up all his inheritance that he was expected to give. And he took the gospel literally. He traveled without a money purse, barefoot, dressed only in a woolen tunic. And he walked barefoot through France and Germany in the wintertime, in ice and snow, up into his knees, traveling from town to town to town, preaching the good news and the good word. One of the things that he did very well was to reconcile enemies. Whenever he came to a town where there were two people that weren't getting along, he would get them together, tell them about God, and get them over relics of saints to come together and to end their disputes. He was known as a reconciler, very well known for that. When he arrived in a town where there was a bishop who knew him from childhood, but because of his condition, his bare feet and his ragged clothes, the bishop didn't recognize him at first. When he finally did recognize him as Norbert, an old friend of his, he fell to weeping at the condition that Norbert, with his fasting, had come to. There was another priest there who was attending the bishop. His name was Hugh of Foss. Hugh of Foss also saw Norbert's condition and felt the same way, wept, because he wanted to do the same thing that Norbert was doing. Hugh of Foss would then become Norbert's lifelong companion. And Hugh of Foss would become the first abbot of Prémontré, and it would be under Hugh of Foss that the order would grow and succeed. Because Norbert was a noble, his aunts were a little bit worried about him. And his aunts were powerful. They were also of nobility, and they got the Pope to get the Bishop of Leon, Bartholomew, to kind of look after Norbert, because they wanted him to sort of settle down and to take a little bit of better care of himself. So Bartholomew starts showing Norbert around all these different places, hoping he's going to find one that he likes and settle down and form a community. He took him first to the forests, and he said, no, it's too close to the country. And he said, to the people. And then he took him to rich farmland, and he said, no, it's not. We're not looking for rich. We're looking for poverty. He finally took him to a salt marsh meadow, and that salt marsh meadow was called Prémontré, or the Shone Meadow. And it was there that Norbert had a vision of men and women in white carrying incense censers and praising God. And he decided that that was where he was going to found his community. And that's what he ended up doing. When he founded the community, we needed something to wear. So the habit was apparently, according to legend, was given to Saint Norbert by the Blessed Mother herself in a vision. Saint Norbert received the habit from Mary, and Norbert chose the color white because he said the angels by the tomb at the resurrection wore white. So my canons are going to go ahead and wear white, and that's why we wear what we do today. But he also needed a rule by which we could live by. And he settled on the rule of St. Augustine, and that is the rule to which we live to this very day. Under Hugo Faust, the Norbertine order expanded, and we opened up abbeys all throughout Europe and Eastern Europe. During the French Revolution, about 90 of our Norbertine abbeys were suppressed in France, closed, and all the goods sold. Same thing happened in Eastern Europe when the Communist Revolution took over, and in Germany when the Reformation hit. The Norbertine order went underground in France. Without any abbeys and without any churches, the order survived. We managed somehow to get novices, and the Lord kept our order going and going. And at this point, I'll turn it back over to Francis to talk about our life today.
So what we're concerned about today is explaining to you exactly